to present the archive. So I acknowledge and am honored to be in a position where I am also, we as young people are here sort of presenting the archive. So I'm also asking for permission to speak before I go on. So anyone 33 and plus, do I have your permission?
Yeah.
Thank you. Um, yeah, Languages Archive. Um, that's interesting. Yeah, specifically even with, it was interesting how that even came up because the initial sort of like impetus to this entire film started with a question just even around what it even means to preserve. Um, who is preserving? Are Africans, are Bantu people, are Zambians even preserving in the same way that sort of the standard colonial or institutionalized, um, like that definition? Is that what we are doing? Is that what we're supposed to do? So that's sort of where it started, which led me to Zamrock. Is anybody familiar with Zamrock? Yes, no, maybe. So Zamrock is Zambian rock and roll, obviously. That sort of like rose in the early 60s to fall in the early 90s, almost into obscurity due to a bunch of different things: the HIV and AIDS crisis, the economy crash, the brain drain. So that's sort of like asking myself, what does it mean to keep, led me to Zamrock. And then the accent that you're hearing is Canadian, by the way. Then the Canadian government, I asked the Canadian government for money and I was like, send me to research. So while we were sort of in the weeds of trying to discover more about just the rise and fall of Zamrock, the theme of language loss kept on coming up, actually. So here I was thinking that I was on a journey talking about music and sort of just this life of music and rock and roll in South Central Africa. But the thing that kept on coming up was who are we as a people, um, and kind of this fragmentation of culture because of loss of language. And I mean, language is something that, it determines so much. It even determines the way that we think. I think about Bantu languages and even the way that they're structured, and how it implies so much about what we value. When we think about grammar and a sentence in English versus a sentence in French versus a sentence in Swahili or Bemba, you're placing maybe a verb or a noun in a certain spot, and that's sort of informing how we think, what it is that we value, and therefore, and. So, I don't know, I'm rambling a little bit, but there's something in there about language being archived. Yeah.
I guess to do with that question, because there was a lot of like hesitation in the film, them talking about how, I guess, language is passed on to the next generation and what that means towards, I guess, our heritage. Do you share the same sentiment in terms of like how you perceive language? Do you speak native language? Do you learn different languages? And I guess what's your sentiment about it being passed on to the next generation or how it's
Okay, yes, I do actually remember what I was gonna say. Um, yeah, I think it's extremely important to pass on. As an adult, I am learning my mother tongue now. I'm sort of returning to and forcing my mom to be like, when I'm on the phone with you, you're only gonna speak to me in Kaonde. I'm from the northwestern province of Zambia. And that's what we're doing right now. And I'm sort of at 33 years old, sounding like a 3-year-old to my mom, being like, Mutende, am I saying it right? And then she's like, yes. So yeah, I think it's extremely important because, like I said, it's something that, informs philosophy as well. But as an example, Mutende, who here speaks a Bantu language? Anyone? Do you know what Mutende means? No? No? Okay. Well, I'm like, anyone? No? Mutende in my mother tongue is sort of the everyday greeting, and it means peace. And So just even that, it's interesting, kind of engaging with my mom, and the first thing that I'm saying instead of hello, which I don't necessarily place philosophically. I'm like, oh yeah, hello, it's just a greeting. But to now say to my mom every time I'm on the phone, mutende, and wishing her something, wishing her well, or kind of like exchanging this offering of peace to her already kind of establishes like a different way of how we're engaging.